I'm going to show you how to make a super simple teleporter that teleports a player one way to a point of your choosing. Okay, so let's get started. So I've got this teleporter part here, which is literally just a base part, resized, change the transparency, change the color, turned off can collide, and that's really about it. There's nothing else special to this. So this is what players are going to hit, and then that will activate the teleportation. I've just called mine teleporter for ease of access, but you can obviously call it whatever you want. And another part that we need to make is a teleportation point where we actually want the player to end up. So all I'm going to do is just add another part. I'm going to make this light green. I'm going to set transparency down a little bit, turn off can collide, and then just resize it into a small little cube. Then I'm going to name this T point for teleportation point, just makes it a bit easier to read. And let's say that I want our player to teleport over sort of around this area. So move your T point wherever you want the player to end up. And now this is the really important part. You have to make sure that you put your T point in the air. If it's in the floor, your player is going to phase through the floor and glitch out, and it will just be a very bad experience for the player. So you want to have it at least this sort of height so that the player can have enough leg room to actually fit in your workspace. Oh, and also make sure it's anchored so it doesn't move. Same with your teleporter. Okay, so now we've actually got all our prerequisites set up, we can start scripting. So head into your teleporter, click the little white plus, add a script. I'm just going to call this TP script and delete the default text. So first of all, we actually need to get our teleporter. So I'm going to say local teleporter equals script.parent. Then we need to get our T point, which will be local T point equals workspace.tPoint. And then we also need to make a debounce variable so we can set a cooldown so that the player isn't constantly sending requests to the server to teleport their player and therefore just causing bad server performance. So we're going to say local debounce equals false. Now you can obviously call this whatever you want. I just call it that because it kind of makes sense to me, but you could call yours cooldown or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really matter as long as you make it false. Okay, so now we actually need to detect when the teleporter has been touched. So we're going to say teleporter.touched connect function hit, and then we're going to try and get the player here. We're going to say local player equals game.players get player from character hit.parent. So essentially what this is doing is whenever something touches it, it's returning the hit value, which could be the right leg, it could be the head, it could be the torso, it could be anything. So what we're saying here is we're connecting to the player service and we're calling get player from character, and hit.parent will always return our character. So now we're going to check if it actually is the player and if we're on the cooldown. So we're going to say if player and not debounce, then all that actually means is if we have the player, if we've managed to actually fetch the player and debounce is equal to false, that's just what not debounce means, then we're going to make debounce true, debounce equals true, and then we also need to get the player's character so we can start altering their position. Local character equals player.character or player.character added weight. Now that line might confuse you a little bit. Why would we be just using player.character and also adding this character added weight function? Well, what you've got to take into consideration is that Roblox servers aren't the best and things may load slower than you actually think. So the player's character might load last in something and they might have already touched your teleporter and we don't have their actual character. So player.character essentially is going to return an instance if it's there. If it's not there, there's going to be nothing. It's going to return nil. So that's why we're also adding this little failsafe with or player.character added weight, which utilizes the character added function, which detects when the player's character has been loaded and then it will wait for it to finish loading. Okay, so now we need to use a new function we haven't seen before. I did cover it in my last video on the zombie spawner. However, I'm going to go through it again because it is a little bit complex to understand. So all we're going to say is character set primary part C frame T point dot C frame. So this may look a little bit complex, but all we're doing is we're saying we want to set the primary part C frame, and the primary part of a character is the humanoid root part. Now, because a character is a model, you can't actually move models with the position or the C frame. You have to set the primary part C frame. So every single model, whenever you're doing this with anything else, you need to have a primary part set. But because we're only doing this with the character, it already comes with a primary part set, which is the humanoid root part. So essentially all we're doing here is we're setting C frame or position of our primary root part to the position of our T point. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense. So now we're just going to say wait 1 and then debounce equals false. And that is our entire script finished. So now if we head into our game, and now if we actually head into our teleporter, you can see we get teleported to the exact point that we specified. So you can actually have multiple of these teleporters around. If you want that, all you'll have to do is just duplicate the T point and the teleporter, and just make sure you change the T point's name to maybe T point 2, and go in your teleporter script and make sure you change it to T point 2. And you can see now if I head in the game, our first one takes us to where we specified before, and our second one takes us to where we specified after. So that is the end of this tutorial. If it did help you, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. If you have any comments or concerns, please make sure to leave them in the comment section below. We also have a Discord you can join where you can get all the free resources. I'll be leaving this in the free resources tab for you all. And also make sure to join the group. If you're in the Discord and the group and you verified with our bot, you will get a nice little role which makes you stand out from everyone else. And yeah, I will see you all later.